Yesterday, I recorded a whole video talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs against the Tampa Bay Lightning. I wanted to do a full simulation to see who wins the series. Now, this matchup is locked in, the exact same matchup as last year. Regardless of how good of a season they're going to have, they're going to play one of the top teams in the league. And arguably, within the past 5 years, one of the best teams in the NHL. So long story short, I started to record this video and it just lacked something. There wasn't enough at stake, I found. I ended up doing one simulation. The Leafs actually ended up winning, which was my prediction. But I wanted to raise the stakes. So in today's video, what we're going to do is we are going to take the Toronto Maple Leafs against the Tampa Bay Lightning, simulate 10 7-game series, and see who wins more of them. Before we get into that, I will preface this video by saying that I am not a Leafs fan, but I'm also not a Leafs hater. So you're going to get really a non-biased talk about the Leafs throughout this video, but we are focusing on the Leafs, and the reason being the Leafs completely stacked their team with stars. Throughout the years, they've really built a good team. Now, the only area I would say that they're probably struggling or inconsistent in would be goaltending. It seems between the pipes they have decent goalies, but no goalies with real experience with winning. Regardless of the Leafs' performance within the last however many years, they end up playing top tier teams. Now, let's just go through it a little bit. In 2017, the Leafs had a record of 40, 27, and 15. They ended up getting first rounded by the Washington Capitals. Now, a decent record in the regular season, playing the Washington Capitals, a team that went on to win the Cup that following year, that's not something to be super upset about. Going on to the 2018 season, they had just about a 50-win season, ended up getting first rounded by the Boston Bruins. Going on to the next year, again, nearly a 50-win season, not quite as good of a record there, but 46, 28, and 8. The Leafs end up playing the Boston Bruins, and just like the year before, going to Game 7 and losing to the Boston Bruins. Pretty disheartening for Leaf fans, that's for sure. On to the next year, they had a not very good year, going 36, 25, and 9, and ended up not making it into the playoffs. The 2021 season, going 35, 14, and 7, a solid record, and end up losing to the Montreal Canadiens the first round. The Montreal Canadiens that ended up going on to win the Eastern Conference Finals and on to the Stanley Cup. And then the year after that, just a frustrating experience for the Leafs. They have an unbelievable record in 2022 of 54, 21, and 7. End up getting matched up against the Tampa Bay Lightning, and in 7 games, as we all know, they lose to the Lightning. Now here we go. In 2023, they have yet again a very good season. They could end up with 50 wins again this year, and they're matched up already. It is locked in with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Whether you hate the Leafs, whether you love the Leafs, they've had a tough go at it in the postseason within the last 5 to 6 years. Now, if you've seen any of my videos or me talk about hockey in the past, I am a big Bruins fan. I don't necessarily want to see the Leafs succeed, but I wanted to make this video because I do think, for one, that the playoff format is kind of silly as far as how the middle of the pack teams play. With as good of record that they've been getting, it is crazy that they're getting matched up against one of the best teams in the league within the last 5 years in the Tampa Bay Lightning. If they make it past that first round, I would be scared to play the Leafs. I do not want to be the team playing the Leafs after the very first round if they come out on top. That's going to give them boatloads of confidence. They have not won a playoff series in nearly 20 years. The last time they won a playoff series was against the Senators in 2004. And if I'm sitting here and being 100% honest with you, I do think that the Leafs are going to be able to go through the Tampa Bay Lightning this year. Tampa Bay has had a lot of struggles this year compared to recent years, whereas the Toronto Maple Leafs have had a great year, relatively consistent all throughout, and with a huge pickup in Ryan O'Reilly, Stanley Cup experience, I think that they're going to be able to get it done ultimately against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Regardless, here we go. 10 times we are going to simulate a 7-game series between these two teams and see who comes out on top. All right, so in our very first scenario, we got game 1. The Leafs end up losing 6-1. Game 2, overtime win for the Leafs, winning 4-3. Game 3, the Leafs let in 3 goals in the second period, leading to a 4-2 loss. In game 4, the Leafs blow a 2-0 lead, lose 3-2. So in those games 3 and 4, we got the Leafs blowing leads, and it's not a good start in this series. Now in game 5, we got Toronto winning 4-3 in overtime. Game 6, we got Toronto winning 3-1 and pushing it to a game 7. And in game 7, we got Tampa Bay in a very hard-fought, high-scoring game, winning 5-4. Scenario 2, we got game 1, Tampa 2-1. Game 2, the Leafs 4-1. Game 3, Tampa 2-0. Game 4, overtime win for the Leafs. They tie it in the third and end up winning in overtime. Game 5, we got a blowout win for Tampa Bay Lightning, 5-1. Game 6, the Leafs are down 2-0. They score 4 goals in the second period, end up winning Game 6 and forcing a Game 7. They win Game 6, 6-3, and then in Game 7, the Tampa Bay Lightning win 6-0. So the first 2 series not looking super good for the Leafs, if I'm being honest. I was not sure what to expect from this simulation. I did have a prediction, and I thought the Leafs were going to come out with more wins than the Tampa Bay Lightning, but up 2-0 in the first 2 scenarios. Let's hop into scenario number 3. We got the Leafs winning 4-2. In Game 2, Leafs win 5-2. They start hot, and really, the one thing I am noticing in these first 3 series is that Austin Matthews is essentially not even there. He hasn't scored many goals at all and hasn't had many assists at all. But the Leafs in scenario 3 are winning. The Leafs 3-2 overtime win. Game 4 and Game 5, the Tampa Bay Lightning win 5-1. And the Tampa Bay Lightning win 5-1. This was concerning. The Leafs were up 3-0. Tampa wins 2 in a row, and in those 2 games they won in Game 4 and Game 5, they end up outscoring the Leafs 10-2. And then in Game 6, the Leafs pull it together and end up winning 2-1, and they win their first series out of the 3, 4-2. All right, in scenario number 4, we got the Leafs winning 4-3, the Leafs winning 7-1, and then Game 3, Tampa Bay comes back, 4-1 win for Tampa Bay. Game 4, Game 5, Game 6. Unfortunately, the Leafs lose 4 straight after being up 2-0 against the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the series goes to Tampa Bay Lightning 4-2. So out of the first 4 scenarios, Tampa is up 3-1. Moving on to scenario number 5, we got Game 1, 6-2. Matthews gets a hat trick in the very first period, and the Leafs dominate. Game 2, Leafs win 2-0. Game 3, in Tampa Bay fashion, answer back with a high-scoring 6-1 win. Game 4, Game 5, we got the Leafs winning 3-1 and 3-2. 3 wins for Tampa Bay Lightning and 3 wins for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Moving on to scenario number 6, we got a 2-1 win for the Leafs. Game 2, a 4-3 overtime Tampa Bay win. Game 3, 3-2 for Tampa Bay. Game 4, we got a 2-1 win for Toronto with Matthews getting an overtime winner. And then in Game 5, 7-3 Tampa Bay Lightning. 4 third period goals for Tampa. Just a gut punch if you're a Toronto fan in that one. And then on to Game 6, we got a 5-4 Tampa Bay Lightning. Again, unfortunately, the Leafs let in 3 third period goals to tie it. And then Tampa ends up closing it out in Game 6 in overtime. Tampa Bay wins it 4-2. They are currently up 4 series to 2 series against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Moving on, I'm going to spoil this one for you. Another 7-game series. How many 7-game series we saw here is insane. Game 1, 5-1 to Tampa. Game 2, 4-1 to Tampa. Game 3, 6-5 for the Leafs. The Leafs score 4 goals in the second period, let 3 goals in the third period, but still end up winning 6-5. In Game 4, Tampa Bay answers 5-1 for the Tampa Bay Lightning. In Game 6, the Leafs, again a high-scoring output for the Leafs, 6-3, and end up winning in overtime. Game 7, the Leafs give Kucherov a hat trick in the third period, and with 2 minutes left in that period where Kucherov scored a hat trick, the Leafs end up losing 4-3. They're down 5-2 for series. Stick around. Trust me, it gets really good. So Game 1, 3-2 Leafs. Game 2, 3-1 Tampa. Game 3, Matthews with a hat trick in the first period, 8-1 for the Leafs, the highest score we've seen from the Leafs throughout all of these games so far. And again in Game 4 and Game 5, the Leafs win 6-2 and 6-2. Marner in 5 games gets 10 points, and the Leafs completely wipe out the Tampa Bay Lightning in scenario number 8, 4-1. In scenario number 9, Game 1, Leafs win it 5-4 in overtime. Game 2, 3-2 Tampa. Game 3, 3-2 overtime Tampa Bay Lightning. Game 4, 4-3 overtime Leafs. 3 third period goals. They end up winning in overtime. Game 5, Leafs 5-3. And Game 6, in the first period, Toronto scores 3. In the second period, Tampa Bay scores 3. And then Toronto scores 3 in the third. And the Leafs close out the series, winning that series 4-2. Absolutely crazy. Some of these games, I was simming through them. I was completely mind blown how close they were throughout the games. Because I would go period by period, seeing what the score was throughout the games. 5 to Tampa, 4 to the Leafs. Now we got scenario number 10. If the Leafs can win, it's a 50-50. Let's hop into the last and final series between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Game 1, we got 4-3 Tampa Bay Lightning with 4 second period goals. Game 2, 4-1 for Tampa. It was not looking good to start, needless to say. Game 3, each score 3 in the first, 5-4 for the Leafs. The Leafs make it a 2-1 series. In Game 4, 3-1 for Tampa. It's a struggle there for the Leafs. Game 5, the Leafs answer. 3-0 win for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Game 6, the Leafs win, pushing it to a Game 7. And Game 7. Now, I watched Game 7 in increments of 30 seconds and then in the third period in increments of 10 seconds. It was so intense because it was 0-0 up until the third period. And then in the third period, with like 14 minutes left, the Leafs end up scoring. It's a 1-0 game. With 2 minutes left, Tampa Bay's on a power play. Tampa Bay ends up not scoring, and the Leafs close it out, winning Game 7 1-0, and it is a 5-5, 50-50 between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, if I'm going to be honest with you, I would say most people think it's a toss-up between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning. But if I was choosing, looking out at how Tampa performed this year compared to how the Toronto Maple Leafs performed this year, I don't think the Leafs are going to struggle at all. I actually think the Leafs are probably going to win 4-1 or 4-2. This is going to be the year with the depth that they've built in the offense and the skill they have in their starting defense there. I think this is going to be the year for the Toronto Maple Leafs to push past the Tampa Bay Lightning and move on to the second round of the playoffs. I don't know what your thoughts are, whether you're a fan or not. I am interested. If you would like to comment below what you think this series is going to be like, how you think this series is going to play out. And in a future video, I am personally going to play with the Toronto Maple Leafs in this first round and see how I fare against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I will likely play through the entire 2023 NHL playoffs. Thank you very much for watching, and we will catch you in the next video. Take care.